They say I'm a demon, but my brother was the only one who ever took care of me. When I heard he was dead, I went on a rampage. At 3, I could wring a rooster's neck with my bare hands. At 5, I chased big dogs with a wooden club. At 7, when a relative teased me, I beat him so badly he ended up in the hospital. Everyone said I was a demon reincarnated, a monster. To stop me from doing anything worse, my parents locked me in the cellar. In that sunless place, my only companions were endless darkness and loneliness. Only my brother, Alex, would find excuses to sneak in and keep me company. Then one day, the cellar door opened. It was my mother. Her eyes were filled with hatred. "Luke, if you really are some kind of monster, I want you to kill everyone who ever bullied your brother." I just stood there for a moment, then burst out laughing. "He's finally dead. Now I don't have to play this big brother little brother game anymore." I was smiling, but tears streamed down my face. I'll never admit they were tears. I walked out of the cellar, and the sunlight I hadn't seen in so long stabbed at my eyes, forcing them shut. My mother stood to the side, watching me coldly. "How did he die?" I asked, squinting. "Suicide," she said. "He took sleeping pills." I paused, then let out a sneer. "A guy like him? He actually killed himself?" In my memory, my brother was always this gentle, kind-hearted pushover. He would choose suicide. He left a note, my mother continued. He said he couldn't stand living like that anymore. So he chose to end it. Living like what? I frowned. The way Jessica tormented him, she said. Not only was she cheating on him, but she would bring her lovers home. If Alex even tried to protest, she'd beat him. Her guy friend, Chad, used to beat him up too, leaving him black and blue. "Your brother told our father, but he just said, 'You're a grown man. Can't you handle a little trouble? What kind of man are you?' His father-in-law cursed him out too, saying marriage isn't a cage and Jessica deserved her freedom." I was stunned. I never imagined my brother was going through that kind of hell. Every time he snuck into the cellar to hang out with me, he was always smiling so happily. And he chose to kill himself. In this whole world, he was the only one who would secretly come down to see me, teach me how to read, and bring me novels, comics, and even a game console. He ran an extension cord down here, and even secretly installed a Wi-Fi router in the room above, so I wouldn't be bored. It was because of Alex that I was willing to stay in the cellar. It wasn't the lock that kept me there. From now on, I'm Alex. I said that and walked into my brother's room. Besides his textbooks and computer, all the good food and fun toys were down in my cellar. I washed up, put on his clothes, and got the same haircut. When I walked out of the room, my mom was shocked. Even she couldn't tell if I was Alex or Luke. "Help me put your brother's body in the cellar. I know you've got an outlet down there. I'll get the freezer chest. We can preserve his body." I followed my mom to the guest room, and we pushed out the freezer chest holding my brother's body. Seeing him now, his body was covered in bruises and marks that looked like they came from a whip. There were also a ton of scratch marks, not from an animal, but from human nails. My face was blank, but I could feel the last shred of my sanity disappearing. After we got the freezer into the cellar and plugged it in, I had just stepped outside when I got a call from my fiancée, Jessica. "Alex, where are you? Hurry up and come get me. My girlfriends and I are all waiting for you." "On my way," I replied coldly and hung up. I drove to the place Jessica mentioned and saw it was a karaoke bar. I frowned but went inside anyway. I walked into the private room and saw Jessica and a bunch of people having a wild time. When she saw me, she waved me over. "What took you so long? Go pay the bill." I frowned and ignored her, scanning the room. It was a mix of guys and girls, some of them all over each other, looking like a bunch of whores. Just then a guy walked over. He was holding a Jaeger bomb and looked at me with a smirk. "You're here. No rush. Come on, drink this." I narrowed my eyes at him and asked flatly, "What's your name?" The guy was surprised, then snorted. "Are you stupid? Don't you know who I am?" He patted my face with his hand and laughed. "Remember, my name is Chad. Your fiancé is mine. You just have the title, haha." Everyone else roared with laughter. "Yeah, your fiancé is ours too, you cuck," a few other guys chimed in. Jessica just rolled her eyes at them, but didn't deny it. "So it was you?" I looked at him and smiled. My hand started to tremble with a surge of excitement I'd never felt before. What? You scared to drink? Seeing me hesitate, Chad mocked me. I'm offering you a drink and you won't take it? You might not be walking out of here tonight. I suddenly grabbed a beer bottle from the table and smashed it over his head. With a loud crash, Chad's head split open. He screamed in panic, clutching his head as blood gushed between his fingers. Ah! Everyone in the room was stunned by the scene. Alex, are you crazy? Jessica screamed, her face pale with fear. Fuck. A few of Chad's friends rushed me. I slapped them down, one by one, sending them sprawling to the floor. I don't know my own strength, but I can lift a 1,000-pound boulder with one hand. Maybe they were right to call me a monster. I was born with superhuman strength. In just a few seconds, 5 guys were on the ground, all of them dizzy from the slaps. Everyone else in the room was dumbfounded. I grabbed another beer bottle from the table and brought it down on Chad's head again, as he was trying to get up. The second hit sent him collapsing to the floor. Then a third bottle, and he passed out cold. I smashed bottle after bottle on his head until the floor was soaked in blood. The others who had recovered just stared, completely frozen. None of them dared to move. The women were huddled in a corner, watching in a daze. Jessica was also covering her mouth in shock, never imagining that Alex could be so terrifying when he snapped. Unfortunately, after about 10 bottles, the table was empty. If I used my fists, I was afraid I'd kill him with one punch. I ended up grabbing unopened cans of beer and slamming them against his body. Each time a can hit him, it exploded. The guy was already long gone. That's when Jessica finally snapped out of it and tried to pull me back. Alex, you're insane. You're going to kill him. The moment she got close, I grabbed her by the neck with my left hand and lifted her into the air. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't know how to fight. I only know how to kill. Didn't you want me to kill him? But killing him instantly is no fun. Let's take it slow. There are still 2.5 cases of beer left, no need to rush. As I spoke, I kept smashing him with the bottles. Seeing me hold up a grown woman with one hand while continuing to bash a guy with beer bottles, the crowd was once again stunned. This was beyond human. They all silently cursed Jessica for being an idiot and provoking this kind of monster. Seeing that Chad was completely unconscious and not reacting at all, it got boring. I turned to the other guys here and remembered something. You guys said you'd all been with my fiancé, right? I threw Jessica to the floor and grabbed the corner of the coffee table. The table, which had to weigh at least 200 or 300 pounds, was lifted into the air. Now these guys were really shaking. If that thing landed on them, they'd be turned into meat paste. No bro, I was wrong. I was just talking shit. Jessica is all yours, boss. We wouldn't dare touch her, not even a finger. Yeah, we'd never have the guts. Bro, please let us go, have mercy. The guys dropped to their knees. I frowned, wondering how much of what they were saying was true. Just then the police arrived. They rushed in to pin me down. But even with 4 officers, they couldn't budge me an inch. The guys immediately started shouting, "He's a murderer, officer. Arrest him." I sighed and held out my hands. "Here, cuff me." The cops were speechless. They couldn't believe someone could be this strong, but they cuffed me and took me away. They also called for an ambulance. At the police station, I explained that they had their fun, and then called me to pay the bill. I told them Jessica was my fiancée and she was cheating on me with these guys. The officers all shook their heads, expressing their sympathy for me. Plus, Jessica and the others gave a similar story. Although they said I assaulted them, the reason was the same. Anyone in that situation would probably snap. Luckily, Chad only had a concussion and needed 30 stitches on his head. The police determined that the other party was significantly at fault. I was detained for 10 days and had to pay the medical bills. The moment I walked out of the detention center, I saw Jessica standing by a car. "Alex, you're out?" She looked at me, forcing a smile. "Are you okay?" I stared at her coldly without saying a word. "Alex, don't be like this." Jessica walked over and grabbed my arm. "I know you're angry, but it's over now. Let's start again." "Start again?" I laughed, looking at her. "You think that's possible?" Jessica froze for a second, then said, "I know you blame me, but I had my reasons. Chad wouldn't leave me alone. I didn't have a choice. Enough. I cut her off. I don't want to hear your excuses. I just want to know what you want now. I want to take you somewhere. Jessica hesitated, then said, just come with me. With that, she got in the car. I frowned but followed her. I wanted to see what kind of game she was playing. The car sped along, finally stopping at an abandoned factory. Get out. Jessica stopped the car and looked at me. I have something to tell you. I got out and looked around. The place was completely desolate, with just a few abandoned factory buildings and piles of scrap metal. Why did you bring me here? I looked at Jessica, frowning. Alex, I'm sorry. Jessica suddenly looked at me, her expression complicated. Actually, I didn't want this to happen, but Chad, he forced me. I had no choice. Forced you? I sneered. I think you were pretty willing, weren't you? No, that's not it. Jessica shook her head. Alex, let me explain. Fine, no more explanations. I cut her off. Just tell me, why did you bring me here? Alex, Chad wants to see you. Jessica looked at me and bit her lip. He's inside. You need to be careful. I was stunned for a moment. Then I started laughing. Chad wants to see me? Looks like he can't wait to die. Fine, take me to him. I was actually looking forward to it. The cops came too quickly last time. I wasn't finished. I looked at Jessica. Lead the way. Jessica hesitated, but eventually led me into the factory building. As soon as I walked in, I saw a group of men standing there with iron pipes, machetes, and other weapons. And Chad, with a bandage wrapped around his head, was sitting in a chair, smiling at me. Alex, you got guts? He looked at me and pointed to the chair next to him. Have a seat. I stared at him coldly without speaking. Alex, do you know why I brought you here? Chad looked at me and grinned. Because I want to fucking kill you with my own hands. Oh, is that so? I smiled back. Funny, same here. Chad shot to his feet and waved his hand. Brothers, get him. As soon as he spoke, the group of men charged at me with their weapons. I looked at them, a surge of excitement rising within me, and charged right back. Instantly, the factory filled with the sounds of a chaotic brawl. I fought like a madman, showing no mercy with every blow. A few minutes later, all 50+ guys Chad brought were on the ground. 5 of them were seriously injured, and the rest weren't much better off. As for me, I had a few injuries, but I felt incredibly exhilarated. When Chad swung a machete at my arm, I kicked him in the stomach first, sending him flying. I didn't hold back this time. That was a solid kick. He definitely wasn't going to survive. His stomach burst open, and his clothes were soaked in red from the chest down. At that, the guys with minor injuries scrambled away in terror. Chad lay on the ground, feeling the excruciating pain in his body, and started crying out, "You monster! Stay away from me, you monster!" Cough. After struggling for a few more moments, Chad went still. Ah! Just then, a piercing scream echoed through the factory. I turned to see Jessica standing at the entrance, staring at me in horror. I walked over to her, raised my blood-stained hand, and wiped away the tears of fear from her face, smearing them with someone else's blood. Disappointed? I should be the one lying on the ground, right? Jessica's face was white as a sheet, her body trembling. She couldn't speak. I smiled and patted her on the shoulder. Call the cops. Inside the police station, I sat handcuffed to a chair, my face blank. Name: Alex Wallace. Age: 22. Occupation: unemployed. In the interrogation room, the officer went through the routine questions, and I answered everything cooperatively. Soon the interrogation was over. He looked at me and asked grimly, "Do you know what you've done?" "I got in a fight," I said calmly. "A fight?" The officer frowned. "Do you have any idea what kind of fight this was?" 53 people, all of them hospitalized by you. Chad died on the spot. 5 are in the ICU with critical injuries, and the rest are seriously hurt. 53 men, armed with illegal weapons, attacking me one person. Officer, do you think I should have gone easy on them? Or should I have just waited to die? I retorted with a sneer. The interrogating officer fell silent for a moment, then sighed and shook his head. Fine, let's say it was self-defense, but don't you think you used excessive force? If I didn't, should I have waited for them to kill me? I shot back. The officer looked at me, fell silent again for a while, then waved his hand. All right, whether it was self-defense or not, we'll see what the court decides. After that, things went just as I expected. In court, the judge ruled it as justifiable self-defense. Chad's family was obviously not satisfied and quickly appealed, but their appeal was rejected, and the original verdict was upheld. Although his family hated my guts, they didn't dare try anything, because I was too crazy in a fight. They were afraid they'd end up like Chad. So, they shifted their anger onto Jessica, blaming her for their son's death and harassing her constantly. The result was Jessica ending up in the hospital after a beating, and Chad's family getting arrested and jailed for assault. I stood at the hospital entrance, looking at Jessica lying in her bed, her face pale and full of self-pity. Her whole family was sitting around the hospital room, glaring at me. Alex, you're her fiancé. How could you let her suffer like this? Are you even a man? My mother-in-law's voice was sharp and piercing. She pointed a finger at me, her face contorted with rage. Looking at her, I found it strangely funny. I couldn't understand the way these people thought. They were so pathetically weak, like a little dog barking madly at a tiger. Do these people have no sense of threat? Alex, you're so tough, aren't you? You killed a man. Now your fiancé's been beaten up. Why don't you go kill those people? My mother-in-law continued to rant. Seeing that I wasn't saying anything, she became even more audacious. Today you're going to get on your knees and apologize to Jessica. And you'll stay on your knees until she's satisfied. Slap. A crisp slap echoed through the room. My mother-in-law fell onto the adjacent bed, spitting out a mouthful of blood and 2 of her molars. She was stunned, clutching her face. The rest of Jessica's family in the room was also frozen. Jessica cried out accusingly, Alex, you're crazy. How dare you hit my mom? This is lawless. Today I won't. Jessica's father stopped mid-sentence when he saw me pick up a nearby stool and tear off one of its legs with my bare hands, revealing a sharp, splintered stick. He swallowed the rest of his words. I looked at them. Are you trying to give me a reason to kill you? Her family was terrified into silence. No one said a word. Jessica looked at me, her eyes filled with terror. Alex, why are you like this? You're not Alex. The Alex I know would never bully me like this. I smiled and retorted, I'm just doing to you what you used to do to me. And this is just the beginning. Alex, don't you go too far. Jessica's father finally spoke up, glaring at me, his face red with anger. You think you can scare us like this? Let me tell you, if you don't get on your knees and apologize today, all the business deals between me and your father are off. I sneered, completely unfazed. Call them off then. You think I care? Jessica's father was trembling with rage. He pulled out his phone and dialed my father's number. Old Wallace, you need to see what your wonderful son is up to. Today he actually... I watched his back with a cold smile, waiting to see how my father would handle this. A short while later, my father rushed in. Oh, my dear-in-law, I am so sorry. This damn kid doesn't know any better. I'll make him get on his knees and apologize right now. The moment my father arrived, he was all smiles, bowing and apologizing to Jessica's father. Watching his servile, boot-licking act, I just shook my head and smiled. My poor brother, having to deal with these people every day. The cellar was so much more fun by myself. My father stormed up to me, raising his hand to slap me first. But before his hand could connect, I slapped him first. Slap. A sharp slapping sound echoed. My father was stunned, frozen in place. He clutched his face, his eyes wide in disbelief. You dare hit me? I shot him a cold glance, then turned to look at Jessica and her parents. Alex, you're insane. Jessica's father roared at me. You even hit your own father. Are you even human? Father? I looked at Jessica's father and sneered. Does he even deserve to be called a father? With that, I turned to look at my own father. He suddenly realized something, pointing at me and screaming, You're Luke. I smiled, grabbed him by the throat, and started dragging him out like a chicken. I glanced back at Jessica's family. I need to take care of some family business. Excuse me. With that, I dragged him out. Jessica's family was completely dumbfounded, a chill running down their spines. Even Jessica's mother, who had just lost a couple of teeth, didn't dare say another word. In the hospital corridor. Where are you taking me? My father asked in terror. Home. I dragged him back to our house and then down into the cellar. Inside the cellar was a freezer chest. I opened the lid and made him look at the person inside. My father looked into the freezer, his face turning deathly pale. Alex is dead. How did he die? You drove him to it, I said, looking at him coldly. He finally understood. The person standing before him wasn't his older son Alex, but the younger son he had always feared, Luke. Luke, your brother's death has nothing to do with me. You need to calm down. My father was truly scared now, his voice trembling. For your own gain, you knew he was being tormented by these people, and you still pushed him into that hell. He begged you for help, and you turned a blind eye, didn't you? I walked over and picked up a rusty hatchet from the corner. What are you doing? My father asked, his voice shaking. What am I doing? I smiled. You'll find out soon enough. With that, I walked up to him and grabbed him by the throat. You let me go? With my hand around his neck, my father could barely breathe. This cellar could never hold me. I took a deep breath, forcing down my rage. The only reason I was willing to stay was because my brother was here. He was my only reason to live. He was the saint that suppressed the demon inside me. But you people, you destroyed that saint with your own hands. So you better be ready to face the demon. After I spoke, I turned and picked up the rusty hatchet from 10 years ago. This one is for my brother. My father screamed, his body convulsing in pain. As my words fell, my father started sobbing. Luke, spare me. For the sake of being your real father, please, spare me this one time. Real father? I sneered. You dare call yourself a father? I will make sure you don't even have a corpse left, that you can never be reincarnated. My father looked at me, his eyes filled with terror and despair. You can't do this, he said in a trembling voice. I know I was wrong. I let out a soft laugh. But it's too late. With that, I raised the hatchet, ready to bring it down on him. Wait. Just then he suddenly shouted, I'll tell you a secret. I frowned, looking at him. A secret, about your birth, my father said, his voice trembling. Hearing the word secret about your birth, I paused, asking coldly, what secret? You're not my child. Alex's father looked at me, his voice shaking. You're David Roberts' child. I was stunned by the news. My brother and I were David Roberts' children? How is that possible? I couldn't help but frown. It's true, Alex's father said, trembling. Back then, your mother was pregnant with Robert's child, but he didn't have the guts to admit it. Your mother hid it from me and agreed to marry me. It wasn't until later, when our families started working together, that I found out. To get my revenge on both Roberts and your mother, I used Alex as a bargaining chip, arranging for them, first cousins, to get married. Then I was going to expose the whole thing. Your mother definitely knew. She went along with it as her own way of getting revenge on Roberts, for being so irresponsible back then. What a fantastic show. I suddenly burst into laughter. This is great. A plot like this, it's so much more interesting. My father stared at me, astonished. You're not angry? Angry? I shook my head. No, I'm thrilled. I thought it was all going to end just like that, which would have been so boring. But now, I have a new target. This is something to look forward to. You calm down, Alex's father cried out in fear. I am calm. Don't you remember? You all called me a monster. With that, I raised the hatchet in my hand. Ah. My father let out a blood-curdling scream. And then there was silence. I laughed coldly. Thank you for telling me something so interesting. With that, I turned to leave. But when I reached the door, I found it had been locked from the outside. Mom, you heard all that, didn't you? You know this door can't hold me. I chuckled. In this world, the only person who could stop me was my brother. Bang. I slammed my foot against the door, and the rusty iron door was kicked clean off its hinges. I walked out and saw that my mother had already driven off. Trying to escape? I sneered. The game is just getting started. I chased after her. At that moment, David Roberts was sitting in his living room watching TV. When he saw my mother walk in, he was taken aback, then frowned. What are you doing here? David, save me. My mother rushed in and threw herself into his arms, her voice trembling. The demon, The demon has been unleashed. What? Hearing my mother's words, David's face changed instantly. The demon you're talking about is... It's our child, my mother stammered. Luke, he knows everything. He's come back for revenge. What? David's eyes went wide. Suddenly, the front door burst open, the wooden frame splintering. I walked straight into David Roberts' house. Both David and my mother stared at me in panic. David, I said, looking at him coldly. You knew Alex was your son. You knew he was being tormented like that. Why didn't you save him? David lowered his head and muttered, I already have a family. So you just stood by and watched your own son get bullied, insulted, and even driven to suicide, is that it? I stared at him. David was speechless. I looked at him coldly. Because of your negligence, Alex killed himself. What? David's eyes widened at the news. He's dead? That's right, I said icily. He's dead. And you're one of the murderers. No, not me. David frantically waved his hands. I didn't push him, I didn't. You didn't? I laughed coldly. You may not have pushed him directly, but your cowardice, your incompetence, your inability to protect your own son. That's what drove him to a dead end. David had nothing to say. He lowered his head, silently enduring my wrath. David, let me tell you something. I looked at him coldly. You're going to pay for this. Just then, David's wife came out of a room, looking fierce. You home-wrecking bitch. You still have the nerve to come to my house? You think I'm a pushover? She snarled at us. How could my husband have a son out there? I won't allow it. She turned to David. Honey, you tell them, you only have one wife. And the son I gave you. David glanced at her, then looked back down. You bastards. David's wife cursed viciously. It's better that he's dead. Who gave you the right to ruin my family? Her cursing got worse, a torrent of vile words spewing from her mouth. Honey, please say a little less. That's Luke, the demon child from back then. I heard he's already killed someone, David pleaded. What demon child? I don't believe that crap. It was just an excuse you all made up back then. If you have the guts, then kill me. She taunted. My eyes lit up and I smiled. Okay. Just then David grabbed me in a hug. He looked at me, his voice trembling. Luke, calm down, please calm down. At that moment, David's son burst out of his room. He looked about my age, with a fierce expression. You bastards. He yelled at me. How dare you come to my house and cause trouble? Let me tell you, that loser Alex should have died a long time ago. He was a waste of air. Seeing me stand still, he sneered. He was a total weakling. If that bitch Jessica had the guts to do it right, he would have been dead ages ago. Pow. I slammed my fist into his face, sending him flying across the room. Luke Jr. David screamed, trying to step in and stop me. Crack. I kicked him in the knee, and he dropped to the ground. No. David's wife shrieked in terror. Don't do this. Pow. I punched her in the face, and she went flying too. David's son let out a pained scream. I walked over, grabbed him by the hair, and lifted him off the ground. You wanted to die, didn't you? I looked at him coldly. I'll grant your wish. No. No. He screamed in terror, tears and snot running down his face. I was wrong. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that about Alex. Please let me go. Let you go? I smiled. Weren't you acting all tough just a minute ago? Why so scared now? As I spoke, I tightened my grip. He let out a horrifying scream, and then went limp, unconscious. Everyone stared at me in terror. They had never seen such brutal methods. Now it's your turn. I looked at David's wife. She was paralyzed with fear, slumped on the floor without the strength to even try to run. I walked over, grabbed her by the hair, and hauled her to her feet. You said if you have the guts, then kill me. Right? I'm happy to oblige. As I spoke, I tightened my grip. Her scream was even more piercing than her son's. The others were too scared to even speak. They just stared at me in horror, as if they were looking at some terrifying entity. Finally, it was David's turn. I walked over and looked at his terrified face. Your turn, I said, walking towards him. No, don't. I'm your biological father. You can't touch me. I'll give you the family fortune. Just let me go. David was so scared he pissed his pants. I'm not interested in money. I'm more interested in watching you scream. As I spoke, I once again tightened my grip. Ah! David's screams echoed throughout the room. My mother was already a heap on the floor, too terrified to even think about running. She sat there, muttering over and over, "Luke, Luke, don't do this, don't do this." I looked at her terrified, contorted face and let out a cold laugh. "Mom, you let me out because you wanted me to get revenge for you, didn't you? Your wish is my command." I walked over and crouched in front of her. "Go down there and apologize to Alex. If he forgives you, then I'll forgive you." With that, I plunged the hatchet into her chest. The next day, the massacre of the Roberts and Wallace families shocked the entire city. In the cellar of the Wallace home, police discovered the frozen body of my brother, Alex. He had been dead for some time. When Jessica's family heard the news, they were thrown into a state of utter panic. They remembered all the strange things that had happened and suspected they were being haunted by Alex's ghost. "It has to be him. He's come back for revenge," Jessica's mother cried. "We did so many horrible things to him. And now his ghost is coming for us. We're next." Jessica's father was also pale with fear. To save his own skin, he went straight to the police. "Officer, I want to confess," he said in a trembling voice. "Tax evasion, illegal business practices, bribery. I'll confess to everything. Just please lock me up in a jail cell and keep me safe." Jessica was terrified too. She confessed to everything. How she had manipulated people, how she had driven Alex to his death step by step. "It's my fault. I deserve to die," she sobbed. "Arrest me, please. I don't want to die at his hands." Only Jessica's mother sat there, lost and unsure of what to say. The police were incredulous at the family's mass confession, but arrested them one by one. Only Jessica's mother, who hadn't been involved in the crimes, was left at home. But she was so scared that she begged the police to take her too. "Officers, please do me a favor and take me with you," she wept. "I'm scared, I'm so scared." In the end, for her own safety, the police took her into custody as well. And with that, Jessica's entire family was behind bars. The police van transporting Jessica's family to the detention center was suddenly hit by a car that came barreling out of nowhere. The sound of the impact was deafening, and the van instantly flipped onto its side. My car pushed it right through the storefront of a shop on the side of the road. As I got out of my car, her family was crawling out of the overturned van. I walked towards them, hatchet in hand. They had never seen such a madman, like a true demon crawled out of hell. "No, don't kill me." Jessica and her father were petrified, collapsing to the ground without the strength to even try and run. Jessica's mother was even more terrified, unable to speak. She knelt on the ground, banging her head on the pavement, begging me to let them go. "If you let us go, we'll give you anything you want." I looked at them, saying nothing, just smiling coldly. Seeing this, Jessica's mother scrambled to my feet, clutching my leg and wailing, "Jessica is your sister. After David and I got together back then, I got pregnant with her." "What?" I was stunned, looking down in disbelief at Jessica's mother. Jessica's father's eyes went wide, filled with rage and murder. He knew he was dead today anyway, so he might as well take someone with him. While I was distracted, he grabbed a loose brick from the rubble and smashed it against Jessica's mother's head. She didn't even make a sound before she collapsed, blood pooling beneath her head. I snapped back to reality and looked at Jessica's father, walking towards him step by step. At that moment, the police reacted, raising their guns and shouting at me, "Don't move. Move again and we'll shoot." I was completely unfazed and continued walking towards Jessica's father. Bang, bang, bang. The police opened fire. The bullets hit my body, staining my clothes red, but I didn't even slow down. I walked right up to Jessica's father and raised the hatchet. Squelch. Blood sprayed out, staining my eyes red. The police were shocked. They had never seen anyone like this, impervious to bullets, impossibly strong, an absolute monster. Bang, bang, bang. They fired another volley, but I still didn't fall. Instead, I moved faster. Covered in my own blood, I walked up to Jessica, looked into her terrified eyes, and smiled coldly. "Now it's your turn." As I spoke, I raised the hatchet. Suddenly, my body felt light. A bullet had hit my head. The hatchet fell from my hand, and I collapsed on top of Jessica, crushing the air out of her. She looked at me in terror, my eyes wide and staring right at her. Ah! Jessica let out a blood-curdling scream. The police rushed over, and after confirming I was dead, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at the carnage and blood-soaked ground, they all felt a deep sense of dread. The case was too bizarre and grotesque. The killer and almost everyone involved were dead. There was no way to properly open an investigation. In the end, the case just became a local legend. And Jessica, because of this incident, went half mad. She spent her days muttering things like "I'm sorry and I was wrong." The end.